Okay, this is for Algebra 1, and this is day 1 of the quadratic equation. Remember, we're dealing with quadratics, and the way you know that it's quadratic if you're looking at an equation is it has x squared. The way you know it's quadratic if you're looking at a graph is that it's a parabola that opens either up or down. Yesterday we learned how to solve quadratics by looking at the table on your calculator. Today we're going to still be solving, but we're going to use something called the quadratic formula. Remember, we are trying to find solutions, and solutions are, if you look at the graph that's on your notes here, think about it. Using words, what are the solutions? Well, if you point them out, there's a solution and there's a solution. So what are they? They are x-intercepts. Okay? They're where the graph crosses the x-axis. They're also called solutions. They're also called x-intercepts. They're called roots, and they're called zeros. They might use any of those words on the end-of-course test, but they all mean the same thing. You're finding where the graph crosses the x-axis. So today we're going to use something called the quadratic formula. This is the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This formula is provided on your formula chart, but it's also one it would be really good to memorize because you will use it off and on for the rest of your math career. This is a quadratic equation. A is the number in front of x squared, b is the number with x, and c is the constant. Before you figure out what a, b, and c are, you need to make sure everything is on the same side of the equation. And you want x squared to be positive. So, for the example, 3x squared plus 4x minus 1, a is 3, b is 4, and c is negative 1. Make sure you have everything on the same side. Make sure you use the signs. I use that negative with that 1. So the first part you have to do is just be able to identify a, b, and c, and that's not too tough. So in this equation, a is 3, b is 2, and c is 7. If it helps you, you could just label them right here, a, b, c. Just watch your signs. So, let's go back one and look at this. Let me clear all the ink off of here. If I were to set this equation up in my quadratic formula, remember we said a is 3, b is 4, and c is negative 1. You start with the negative, and you put b. b was 4. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 4 squared, minus, and it's always a 4 here, times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 1. That whole thing is over 2 times a, which is 3. You have set it up to be the quadratic formula. That's as far as we're going to go with it today. Tomorrow we'll actually punch the numbers in and find the answers. So, they want to know which one of these could be used to solve. Well, remember that a is 3, b is 2, c is 7. Or you can come over here and do it on your own. A equals 3, b equals 2, c equals 7. Remember, our formula starts out negative b. That means it has to have this value with the opposite sign. So it has to start out with a negative 2. It can't be that, it can't be that. So we know it's negative 2 plus or minus the square root of something. The formula is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Well, what was b? 2. So 2 squared minus 4 times, what was a? 3 times what was c? 7. So which one of these remaining problems has 2 squared for the beginning? This one does, so it can't be that. D is your answer. A is 2, b is negative 8, c is 3. So you're starting with negative b. Since b is negative 8, this means you will start with a positive 8. Can't be a, can't be d. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. b is negative 8, so we've got to have negative 8 squared. That's not negative 8 squared, so b is your answer. A is 2, B is negative 10, C is negative 10. Start with negative B. B is a negative 10, so we're going to use the opposite sign and start with a positive 10. Not A, not D. Plus or minus the square root of, and you've got B squared, which means negative 10 has to be squared. Not C, it must be B. Okay, so now let's actually try to put 1 in. A is 1 because there's not a number in front of x squared. B is negative 5. C is negative 6. So using your formula, which is negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Negative B means use the opposite of negative 5, so 5. Plus or minus the square root of B squared means negative 5 squared. It's important that you put negative 5 in parentheses and squared on the outside. Minus, it's always a 4 here, times A, which in this one is 1, times C, which for this one is negative 6. The whole thing is over 2 times A, which is 1. For today, that's as far as we're going to go with it, just getting it set up. So you're done. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to use that to actually get an answer. Okay, so A is equal to 9. B, there's not an x term, so it's 0. C is equal to negative 1. So your formula starts out with negative B, which you can't have a negative 0, so it's just 0. Plus or minus the square root of B squared, so 0 squared, minus 4 times A is 9, times C is negative 1. And it's all over 2 times A, which is 9. That's all you have to do for today. A is equal to 4. B is equal to 2. C is equal to negative 5. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of B squared, so 2 squared, minus 4 times A is 4 times C is negative 5. All over 2 times A, which is 4. A is 3. B is negative 7. There is no constant, so C is 0. So negative B means use a positive 7 on this one, plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared. Make sure that negative 7 is in parentheses. Minus 4 times A, which is 3, times C, which is 0. And it's all over 2 times A, which is 3. A is 4, B is 2, C is negative 5. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times negative 5 all over 2 times 4. A is negative 3, B is negative 6, C is negative 7. 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times negative 3 times negative 7 all over 2 times negative 3. Okay, here's an extra one. It's not on your notes, but you need to be aware of what to do. Start by moving that 8, and this becomes 3x squared minus 4x minus 8 equals 0. Then find A is 3, B is negative 4, C is negative 8. If you don't move that 8 at the beginning, you're going to have the wrong sign for your C, and it's going to mess up the whole problem. Setting up your formula, you're going to use the opposite of B, so 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 8 all over 2 times 3. Okay, this was the quadratic equation, day 1. All we really did today was set them up. We identified A, B, and C, set up the formula. Tomorrow we'll go back and actually use the formula. If you have any questions, come see me during speed.